Hi there, my name is Paige. I'm an online teacher, reading specialist, and a big time nerd. This video has been highly requested, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. It's about how I use Reading A to Z. And I'm going to refer to Reading A to Z as RAZ, just for shorthand all throughout the video. If you want more details about Reading A to Z or RAZ, I highly recommend you go to the website. I'm going to have all kinds of links down below in the video, and also the website for their products is going to be right here, just to remind you that I am not an employee of that company, so if you want more resources, just go ahead and talk to them directly. But I am an expert in using these resources. I have done so for years.
Shameless plug, I do earn commission if you follow these directions. So to follow the directions for the referral, I just want you to know that there is a link in the description box that will pull up this document. This document shares just some things linked about the points that I think are the most important about the resource, of course, how to get a free trial, and how to sign up using the address for the international office in China. So to be counted as my referral, you will have to use the address in China. The team has said that it's totally fine that you just go ahead and use their office as the address. So when you create your account and when you go to buy it, for the purposes of being my referral, please put your first and last name and use the address listed here. I have this in the document listed in the description box below, and I also have pictures of like how to fill out the account information just to help you. And I also have a code for a $5 off discount as well. I make less money if you pay less, but I want to help you teachers out. So description box down below, grab your discount code, grab your directions, and get hooked up with support from the international office located in China because they are great. The international office can provide technical support with the student app as well if you're using RAZ Plus, and they're just really responsive and really great people. So I recommend being linked up to them if you're going to be using Reading A to Z in your classes. So shameless plug is over. All this information can be found in the link in the description box below. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in my Google form as a referral. So there's the Google form right here. And when you're ready, you can fill it out when you've made a purchase so I can keep track of everybody. Thanks.
So I've come back to this resource time and time again, and it's not perfect. No resource is, but I think that RAZ comes pretty darn close. So one thing you really need to know is that RAZ is not just for North American teachers and public schools. RAZ is actually distributed internationally, and they've been distributed internationally for years. So the products that I use are Reading A to Z, which includes the books and the lesson plans, and RAZ Plus. Kids A to Z, it's important to note, Kids A to Z just includes the books. It doesn't include materials and lesson plans for the teachers. So someone can purchase Kids A to Z if they just want books for their kids to read. RAZ Plus has the kids' books and the teachers' lesson plans all combined into one, and there's an app. And I'll get into that exciting app in a moment. I also have the ELL edition add-on. There are even more products to choose from. That's the only thing that I dislike about Reading A to Z, is how confusing it can be to determine which product you want because there are so many good ones. So I have an individual educator license that's one teacher to up to 36 students. And with that account, I'm able to work with anyone who's my student all around the world. I've also gotten confirmation from multiple sources that it is totally fine that I use it in my private teaching business. However, it's important to note that there's a difference between being a private teacher and being a part of a school or tutoring practice. So I don't have a school with other teachers. I'm a sole proprietor. So my license is good for me as a sole proprietor. It wouldn't be good if I was like sharing it with other teachers. It's just for me as the teacher, just me. And don't share accounts because that is tracked. So just fair warning about that. If you have specific questions about their policies, you're really going to want to go to their website and read more about it and see how it applies to you. Their support team is great. They're so friendly. You can call them, you can email them. I can't shout out their support team enough because I have tried to contact a variety of publishers and companies that have teaching resources over the years, and oftentimes I've actually received very little responsiveness when I was shared that I was a teacher. Most of the times the companies, they just talk to large school districts. They really contract out to systems. They don't want to talk to individuals. But this company, they are totally fine with you reaching out as an individual because they want their materials to be used in a variety of settings. So that's why I really, really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you if you are watching this and you're from the support team. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. The subscription to Reading A to Z is worth it because they're always adding more resources. So you're not just buying the large library that already exists, you're also going to be getting resources that are added over time. So it's really well organized, their website. I know that for me as a teacher, when I collect resources, I end up with a very messy desktop. I'm going to let you in on a secret. To make this beautiful desktop clean for you for this video, I have a little folder here that I've shoved everything into for the purposes of the video. Shh, I won't tell if you won't. But that's how it is when you're a teacher. You're busy, things get messy. But when you log into the website, you don't have to worry about your files being messy because it's all organized. You just go in the search bar, you type in what you're looking for. You can go in and select the levels you're looking for, what type of resource, and it's so easy to find things. I really appreciate that. That alone makes it worth it to me because I'm not having to fight with my own disorganization and file systems that I have to maintain. They maintain a wonderful organization system, and I really, really appreciate that. I've also been able to share that with parents in trial classes. When I had a prospective student and they shared that they were interested in space, for example, it was so easy. I just shared my screen and I said, okay, let's take a look at what we could learn about with space. I type in space, I go to their level, and I'm able to like pull up books in real time with my client there, and they're able to see like, oh wow, there are all these resources the teacher could use with me in the next class. I definitely want to buy more classes with this teacher. So it's been really, really great because I don't have to remake the wheel, it's easy to find, and my students and families are really happy with it. Let's get into the app next. The app is something that is for RAZ Plus. So if you just buy Reading A to Z with access to the books and lesson plans, that's not the app, it's separate. So RAZ Plus is the kids' books and teacher lesson plans all combined into one. And one of the ways that it works is through the student app. So they log in and they get access to like this cool space theme planet. They can toggle that off if they're upper level or older and they don't want a space theme. You can get more details about that on their website if you're curious. But my students log in, they can see assignments that I've sent to them, listen to books, take quizzes. They also have access to a large reading library and they get their own accounts. They can get stars. I can also send them messages. I can send text messages or audio messages, so I can record myself saying nice feedback after class and send them additional stars, which they really like. And it also is very quick on my end. I can manage my students all in one portal, and it's very easy for me to do between my sessions and classes. Okay, so now it's time for the meat and potatoes of this video, how I use RAZ in my classes. So first, I use their evaluation systems to kind of get a sense of where they fit in with the materials. So I can do this by judging what level of class they've taken on a platform and then compare it to a general area of books in the alphabet. So maybe I'll try a range of like A through C, or I might try like D through F. It just depends. I like to be ready to pull up a few different levels of books in a trial class, for example. They also do have a scope and sequence for grades K, 1, and 2. So if you need a roadmap to take a student through like all of grade 1 or all of grade 2, they have that ready to go. For the upper levels, it's more about accessing grade level content and helping students who may not yet be at grade level with reading. But there's a lot of resources available for upper level students as well. For me personally, for my lessons, I don't adhere to a strict scope and sequence of we do X, Y, and Z in A, B, C order. That's just not my teaching style because I find that students are generally all over the place, and if you try to get them to fit a very strict and narrow path, you just end up doing so-so lessons. And my students come to me because they want really personalized instruction. So the way I use RAZ is more about selecting materials and matching them with my students, and then being able to use those really efficiently because I don't have to spend all of my time planning. I use leveled readers and content packs mostly, so I will go into a leveled reader book that I've selected on a topic that's interesting for my student. Then I will be able to use the ready-made lesson plan and adjust it for the online session. Some of the lesson plans are written in the perspective of a teacher teaching a small group in a brick and mortar school. So if you're teaching one-to-one online, you are going to have to adapt that, but it's pretty easy. You also will be able to pull up the ready-made resources like graphic organizers, phonics worksheets, and you'll be able to share the book on the projectable and also send a file of the book if you download it. So I use the leveled readers, and I also do some vocabulary instruction on top of it. If you're teaching an English language learner, you're going to need to do some additional vocabulary work on top of just sending them the book, because chances are, if they're not a native English speaker, they're going to be learning a lot about vocabulary with the book, not just how to read the book. Which is why the ELL edition comes in handy, because if you have a book that uses the ELL edition component, that means that usually there's vocabulary cards associated with it, and they've also laid out a lesson plan that's more ELL friendly. If you just use reading A to Z, you're going to be able to use and adapt those lessons for an ELL student. But if you have RAZ Plus and the ELL edition, you're going to be able to have a lot more structures already made for you. So if you want to spend less time planning, I'd recommend using the ELL edition in addition to RAZ Plus, because then you get the app, you get the lesson plans, and then you get extra resources that will help your language learners. I'm going to go ahead and talk about my lesson plans in a 1, 2, and 3 class per week structure. I'm not going to go in detail about like procedurally what we do in class. I'm going to talk about the activities and topics we'll cover. So for 1 meeting a week, I have that student do a lot of work outside of class, and then we spend most of time in class reviewing and just talking about the topic. So for 1 class a week student, I'll send them the phonics worksheets ahead of time. I'll send them the story in the app. They'll listen to it and the quiz. And then in the class, we'll just review the concept and we'll review the book. We won't read the book together in class. We'll just kind of talk about it. And then I'll review any vocabulary that was difficult for them. I can see that in the quiz. I can then review phonics. A lot of times my parents really want pronunciation practice, so we'll do phonics work, and then we'll talk about questions and answers, and I'll do a comprehension check with the student, and that's a really, really jam-packed class. 1 class per week. Usually with that kind of student, 1 class per week, I will do 1 book over 2 weeks. It's not realistic to do it 1 class a week. You can try, and if you have a really, really fast student or a student that is really, really diligent about doing a lot of review outside of class, you can, it's possible, but ideally you're going to want more classes per week, which for your business, you want to have students taking more than 1 class per week anyway, because that means they'll move through the packages faster and you'll make more money. So it'll help encourage more classes per week. So just keep that in your back pocket. So if a student is taking 2 classes with me per week, in the first meeting, we'll do a lot of preview of the book, and we'll do phonics instruction next. We'll do some explicit vocabulary instruction as well. So I won't leave it up to guesswork. That's what explicit means. It doesn't mean that someone's swearing, although it can in another context. It means that I target the phonics in the activities. I teach it to them. I don't leave it just off to the side. I teach it in the context of the book. I teach them the vocabulary, and I make sure that we practice it. Then we'll start reading the book as time permits. If we need to read the book in the 2nd class, that's how we'll start the 2nd class. So in the 2nd class of the week, we'll finish reviewing the book. We'll also go over the phonics and vocabulary again. If there's a grammar topic, I'll do the grammar and context as well. Then we'll have them retell the story. Retelling is a great activity. Have them like tell the story back to you, have them repeat things back to you without having to just use the text. So they have wordless books in RAZ. So I really value teaching reading in 2 ways. I value teaching reading with explicit phonics instruction and not using the pictures. That has a lot of value. And also there's value in having the student have pictures for clues and being able to think through and tell their own story, especially for non-native English speakers, students learning English. You want them to get in practice of talking and really sharing their thinking. There's value in both. There's lots of debate in the reading community about which one's better. I do a mix of both. That's how I roll. I mix it up. If a student has 3 classes per week, that's the ideal. The ideal is 3 classes per week because the lessons are usually structured that way for the ELL edition, between 3 days. And if you need more days, then you can go ahead and have it carry over to the next week. I don't do slides-based lessons because that just doesn't work for me in my practice. If anything is left over, I'll just carry it over to the next session. No big deal. For a student who has 3 meetings per week, I'll review the introduction, introduce the topic, I'll talk about the pictures, and then we'll talk about academic vocabulary, and then we'll talk about the questions for the book. Then for meeting 2, we'll talk about the vocabulary, review it, do phonics instruction, and then we'll read the book and kind of discuss as we go. We have more time to read and discuss with 3 meetings per week, so I can kind of stretch out that reading time. In the 3rd meeting, we'll finish reading the book, we'll have our discussion, we'll review the vocabulary, and then have the student retell the text in detail. And I like to do some kind of summary project. I'll usually use the lesson plan ideas as a jumping off point. Maybe I'll have them do the graphic organizer with main ideas and details, and I'll have the student identify the main ideas, tell me the details, and give kind of a presentation about it. And I have found that my students and parents love when I can incorporate kind of a summarizing project. If you're interested in how I do projects in my lessons, I can do a whole video about that because that's my favorite way to teach. That's the best kind of lesson in my opinion, when you can really get the student to make something and have something that they've done. It sticks with them more than just doing a quiz. So I'm all about projects. I love projects. The other main way that I use with RAZ is the assessment tools. So I will use the assessments in a few ways. I'll use it to kind of do an initial placement, and then I'll do progress monitoring. So it doesn't have to be a formal test. A lot of times people hear assessment and they think exam, and assessments can be exams, but they don't have to be. Assessments can be formal or informal. We can do that in a later video. That's a really, really dense topic. But just know there's lots of tools. There are quizzes for each book, which I'll usually do with my students, or I'll send it to them in the app. They also have running records. So a running record is when you listen to a student reading and you can identify the errors they make while they're reading. It's a lot more systematic and also time intensive. For me personally, I will do the running records like quarterly with my students. I'll have them record themselves using the app. I'll listen to the recording in the app, and then I'll have my running record. I'll take a picture and I'll send that off to my student and parent. But because it's time intensive, I don't do that every class. I usually do some informal feedback with my students and the lesson plans week by week. So I'll make notes for each class as I go in my notebook, and then when I send out my weekly lesson plans, I'll include my feedback, and then I'll include like the informal things that I noticed the student did well and what we're going to work on the next week. In summary, I keep coming back to RAZ, and I really wish that I'd saved my money. I've spent a lot of money on Teachers Pay Teachers, on textbooks, and things that ultimately didn't provide the resources that I needed as a teacher. So yes, it is more expensive than other resources. That is true. If you are comparing Reading A to Z against a pack of resources off of Teachers Pay Teachers, it is more expensive. However, Reading A to Z will offer a lot more resources, and it will provide the long-term support that you need to run your teaching business. It is a really, really large library that's being expanded all the time. It's also research-based, guys. They are always looking through for how they can make their resources better. You're not just buying one edition of it, you're buying a subscription. So as you stay subscribed, they're going to continue to make changes and upgrades. Another great thing is they have that app. I don't know anything else that gives an independent teacher a way to make accounts for students, and they have an app that makes it so wonderful. I can make a flipped classroom experience. So my students can have things sent to them through the app. They can do it on their own. They get additional practice, and then I can send them feedback through the app. It's great. The only thing is, of course, the app is not connected to my class. Like, they can't get my class in the app and watch the playback. I know that GoGoKid and VIP Kid, their student apps were created that way, but I'm not a large corporation. I'm not a large business backed by venture capital, so it's okay. There are going to be some concessions. I'm not going to be able to do all the things large companies were able to do. So it gets me pretty close, though. I can give them an app and give them more resources. My students and parents have really, really appreciated that, because they get a lot more value outside of just having the classes with me. Written lesson plans have saved me. I'll log in the morning and total mom brain moments, like not remember what I'm teaching with my students. I log into Reading A to Z, I pull up my student's file, I go to the folder for that week, and ta-da! I just look at the lesson plan, it's spelled out for me, I pull up the book, I open the worksheets, and I'm good to go. It has saved me. Coming back from maternity leave has been no joke. It has been a complete roller coaster, and I could not have done it without the wealth of resources that are organized on the website. It's just been a lifesaver for me. The support team, thank you. Thank you for answering all my questions, and they're really great. So I really hope that, yes, I'm basically doing a large commercial for them, and I can earn a small commission if you sign up in the Google form that I have under this video, but I really just want teachers to not waste their money. If you're trying to have an independent teaching business, this is the resource that will probably serve your needs. So don't waste your money. Save your money. Have wasted lots of money. Don't waste yours. The students and families love it. I have heard so much great feedback from new students and from students who I've served long term that I didn't always use these resources for. Everyone has shared with me that, wow, these resources are rich, these resources are high quality, these resources are professional, and that they were so pleased. They don't mind that I'm not making everything from scratch. In fact, they appreciate that I'm like not slaving away for them, because no one wants to be working with somebody who's stressed all the time. I'm able to log off after my classes, send them the materials in a few minutes, and then enjoy the rest of my day with my daughter, because right now I just teach for a few hours in the mornings, I log off, and I am a stay-at-home mom, so I need easy. I can't be spending all day creating lesson plans. And if you're watching this video, chances are you want an easy to use resource too. So go ahead and sound off in the comments below. What do you like most about Reading A to Z? Are you curious? Do you want to learn more about it? Have you made a trial account? If you haven't made a trial account, you really should. But you're probably going to get addicted if you make a trial account, so just be forewarned about that. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more content, and I hope that you enjoy using RAZ and that it saves you so much time and that it helps you enjoy teaching your classes that much more. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.